What's going on, everyone? Before we dive into this clip from the best show ever, I just want it to be known that this was about 1 hour before the news broke about Jalen Hurts and his injury. Still a lot of fun and good conversation about what we saw Sunday afternoon, and I figured it would still be highly entertaining. So I appreciate all your support and enjoy. The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
Good afternoon, everybody, on this Victory Monday here. Best show ever on 97.5 The Fanatic and NBC Sports. Philadelphia. Boy, did your football team lose in an upset yesterday? I don't know what that's like, but we'll get into that. We have a lot to get to here. And let's get right to our opening statements. And we start with the word of the day. And the word of the day today is schedule. Schedule. Because yesterday, I know, the Eagles come through to 13-1, and with Dallas's loss, oh, man, that stinks. Blow a big lead, lose your trap game. Eagles win their trap game. They just need one more win the rest of the way to clinch everything they need to clinch as they get ready for the playoffs, and it's already Dallas week. What better team to clinch against than Christmas Eve against Dallas all week long? Like usually on Monday we're looking back, and we will look back, but I can't help but already be looking forward to the Dallas game because they lose because, you know what, they had fooled themselves. This is if I may real fast. They had fooled themselves into thinking that, well, the way our schedule breaks, we'll handle Jacksonville, and basically the Eagles game will be for the division because then we'll control our destiny, which isn't really true. But they really had convinced and deluded themselves into thinking that Micah Parsons talking trash, and then Dougie P does what the thing he didn't know how to do. He knew how to beat Dallas, and they go down there and beat them. And the Eagles have a tough game in bad weather against Chicago, and we tried to warn you. And this isn't like I told you thing. This is a human nature situation. Last week we were asking, especially on Friday, whether or not people were engaged in that Bears game. And the majority of the fans were not. They were already fast-forwarding to Dallas because fans are human beings. The players are human beings at the same time. And so are the coaches. They knew they had to beat the Bears. But they knew they were better than the Bears. And what you saw last night was a situation where they had a division game in which they trounced the team. Then they're playing this sandwich game, knowing that Dallas is up on the road following it. And what you saw last night was sloppiness from the quarterback, some sloppiness with the play calling, terrible weather that absolutely played a role, and the coaches did not adjust for the weather. And what it added up was kind of a game that's the kind of game that you get. And the question is, do you react like, I see people online like, this is very, very troubling. They have to be better against Dallas. Well, duh. But they will be better against Dallas because they'll be more engaged against Dallas. This was real time. So I'm wondering the day after, are people still a little concerned about what they saw? I don't think anybody's panicking. Or was yesterday just one of those things that happens in an NFL schedule because the players are human? As much as Jalen Hurts wants to act like a robot, and I appreciate it, and we'll get into his Anita Baker, because that's how I know he's going to be okay. If you listen to Anita Baker, you're going to be all right. And already we're going to have some Anita Baker playing today for people out there that might not be familiar with Mrs. Baker. But it was a human nature type of game. The schedule dictated that. If you flip-flop and made the Bears game, then Giants, then Cowboys, the Eagles destroy that Bears team. But because of where it fell, that's what happened. Many times in sports, it's not who you play, it's when you play them. Imagine you're getting ready to play the Braves, and you have your 1, 2, 3 lined up. Oh, same team, bang, bang, bang. Or you have 4 or 5, and you were going to have 3, but that 3 guy's injured, so some minor league guy pitches. It's not who you played. It was when you played them, because if it's set up different with your rotation, it would look different. This was a situation where the schedule made the game tougher, and because the Eagles are really good, they found a way to win. And then Dallas, who I do actually think are better than Jacksonville, I do, as much as I don't respect them, they went down there And they relaxed when they got the lead, and they allowed Jacksonville to trip them up because they're not as good. It's not just who you play, it's when you play them. It's Dallas week. Any concerns, Hunter, after yesterday?
I have no concerns, and I'm not surprised it looked that way. I thought it would look that way, and this Eagles team handled business. It was ugly, sure, it wasn't pretty, but they had a job to do. They had their mission, and they accomplished it. So when I look at the team, they had 3 turnovers. You had 2 interceptions from Hurts, and you had the fumble from Miles Sanders, and you had a missed field goal. And you still won that football game, and it wasn't really in question. I felt comfortable the whole time. Now, it wasn't beautiful, don't get me wrong, but while watching it, second quarter, third quarter, there was never a moment where I thought the Eagles are going to let this slide. I just figured it would be one of those ugly ones and whatnot. And when your defense, Haason Reddick, is a monster, that guy, I thought Devonta Maddox forced that fumble towards the sideline, but it was actually him, and then he recovered it as well. If it wasn't for Fletcher Cox not jumping on the first one, then the Bears don't even score there, but he was wrecking the game on every single possession, it felt like. What an absolute beast. And I got to give a lot of credit to Jonathan Gannon, because I listened to Haason Reddick after the game, and he said, yeah, JG was kind of talking to us, letting us kind of play it out like, hey, what do you want? What are you feeling? What's the game dictating? And I didn't know if Jonathan Gannon had that in his bag. I thought he was, this is my system, this is what we're going to run, and I stick to my guns. But how about that? A little bit of opening up. What are you guys feeling? I just, my eyebrows raised when I heard that. But I saw this team, and I say up and down from the quarterback, but still within those down moments, some really special throws, whether it's a slant to get some of your playmakers the ball in their hands and letting them run, whether it's some of those nice passes down the sideline. So definitely not his sharpest game, but after his hands maybe warmed up a little bit, because it sure was cold out there, he was still being the Jalen Hurts we needed to. 68 yards to A.J. Brown. All right, let's seal the deal. What are you saying?
I'm going to tell you this much. It was cold there. It was bitter cold there. We heard about Jalen Hurts talking about his hands were numb early in the ball game. To me, you're going to have ugly football games. This was an ugly football game. They threw some interceptions, some fumbles. Okay, so what did you do about it? You went out there and won the game. You brought up the defense. These guys are mean. I mean, Haason Reddick getting on the outside edge every single time he wanted to get in the backfield, he was in the backfield. Hargrave, Sweat, these guys are everywhere right now. So the defense, I don't even have a concern about the defense right now. What is your concern coming out of a game that you just won on the road in miserable conditions? There is no concern. You're going to go into Dallas. It's an indoor game, so the weather's not going to be an issue. I mean, the only thing that I look at yesterday's game, why Miles Sanders wasn't used early on the ball game, that was a little confusing to me. So I guess the one place where I would point a finger is at Shane Steichen's game plan in this one. You have to let Miles Sanders run the football. He's a 1,000-yard rusher. Give him the damn ball. You don't want to get Jalen Hurts injured, especially at this point during the season. He took a couple big hits yesterday. That's concerning to me. But everything else, I mean, the yards after catch for the wide receivers was outstanding. I guess one other thing that was a little puzzling to me, I thought the tight ends were off. I don't know if it was timing was off yesterday. It just didn't seem like they were in sync with Jalen Hurts yesterday. So that's a little bit of a concern. But going into this game against Dallas will give you a game. They showed it yesterday. They are not going to be up for a big game. And I think the Eagles will go into Dallas. They will be ready to play. They will clean up whatever mistakes happen this week. And hopefully Steichen goes in with a little better game plan so Jalen Hurts doesn't get destroyed.
The tight end thing will get fixed when Goddard's back. And also the game plan. And you ended up getting 300 yards from your two. Yeah, you got 180 and 120 plus. So you got 300 yards from your two outside receivers. Clearly that was the game plan. The problem was they didn't take the weather into account. If it was 35 degrees, they might have scored 50 on that team going against them. Now time to start the Twitter poll with Jen Scordo. Hello, Jen.
Hello there. Well, I'm going a little off the wall today, but I'm curious. So here we go. Would you play all the Eagles starters against the Cowboys on Christmas Eve? You can answer yes, just clinch it, or no, rest them.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was curious.
Huh.
I do hear a lot of Eagles fans out there wondering how they should approach this one. Now, I have the killer eyes, and I just want to go secure it, and then we figure it out from there. But there are some that want to play this differently.
Yeah, I think you got to win this one, and then you play it case by case for the last 2 weeks. There are players more banged up than others. Obviously, you can't sit everybody. But if a player's more banged up than others, then you basically have an opportunity to give that person 3 weeks off. If a player is fine, then the Saints, they play some after you clinch. And at some point, that Saints game, and in the last game, no one plays.
Would you maybe take the questionable route this week? Like if you have guys that are questionable, you kind of sit those guys, let them get an extra week off?
Maybe, yeah.
I do feel a bit uncomfortable going with the method of, well, there's still 2 or 3 games to clinch this, or 2 games to clinch this afterwards. Isn't that kind of playing with fire
Not
a little
when you
bit?
have the Saints at home.
I just think you
and the Giants at home.
Get the job done, and then we'll rest.
I think that
the job's done.
Yeah, the job's done. Dallas losing got the job. It's done, and beating Minnesota already.
We'll make it official.
Yeah, I want it to be official, too. I'm with you, Hunter.
No, I'm playing people against Dallas. What I'm saying is if a guy is nicked up, though, do I need to push him against a game that does not have the same value because Dallas didn't hold up their end of the bargain is what I'm saying.
It's a valid argument, though.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, if a guy is fine, then you're playing. But we don't know. They don't tell us that. Well, first of all, they don't tell us real injuries, let alone the guy that's playing but is bothered. Like, what kind of condition was A.J. Brown's ankle in after he turned it in that game? We didn't hear because they didn't put him on the injury report after that.
Well, here's one. Dallas Goedert. We thought he'd be playing. He isn't playing. They were probably saving him to be 100% for Dallas. Now you're in this situation. What do you do?
I put him back in there.
I do, too.
He needs to get playing time.
Right, but he might end up playing just Dallas, and then I don't know. Like, because once you clinch it, now I got to think about the Super Bowl at that point. So now I got to go in there with the doctors and say, is he okay to play, or is he okay? Because it's 2 different things in football. Okay to play and okay are not the same. They're okay when they arrive at training camp. Then after that, there's no telling when they're like,
they're all beat up, I'm sure.
Yeah, at this point. So once he has a game on it, then I'm having the doctors go back with another MRI, the whole thing. How's the bone? How's this? How's that? And decide. But I would have him back for the Dallas game.
I would, too.
I would have him back for the Dallas game. And then say, okay, now you saw what our guys got 300 yards combined last week. While you covering them, here's him in the scene. No more Stoll. Also, I don't want to see Tyree Jackson anymore. Every time he's in the game, something bad happens. Every time he's in the game, something bad happens.
Not a good thing.
This was the holding penalty that ended up, that was the holding penalty that he had early in the game when they were actually starting to move. He had the holding penalty end up like 2nd and 17. He messed everything up.
One thing I did love hearing, though, once again, after the game was over, I heard from a couple teammates. Devonta Smith was talking about it, and it's the ability for Jalen Hurts pre-snap to read some stuff. The one touchdown run right up the middle, you smell the blitz is coming, and then bang, you just take it right up the seam and score. Then you switch some things at the line of scrimmage, seeing Devonta has a matchup that you can expose, and then bang, you put it on the money. So it is impressive to see the growth of him realizing what's happening before the ball is even snapped. It's the difference-making stuff when you think about what tier of quarterback you are.
He has become a professional.
Let's go to the foes. Ed at Ocean City starting us off, talking about Jalen Hurts. You're on 97.5 The Fanatic. Hello, Ed.
Hey, Ed O'Donnell. I ran into a guy who was at a fitness club when Jalen Hurts was working out, and this guy said Hurts was the most intense fitness club worker-outer he had ever seen. He was a wild man at the fitness club. He was yelling at himself
At the fitness club.
Yeah, and Hurts was like yelling at himself like an NFL coach saying, you're not doing enough, you're not working hard enough. But here's the thing, if you could solve half the problems in the world if everybody worked out that hard at the fitness club. Now, I have an Eagles scoop for you. Nick Sirianni says the rosary with his mother. So it's on your show. You just scooped it.
Thanks for the call, buddy.
He wasn't working out at the NovaCare complex. He went to a fitness
He
club.
was at a fitness club.
Well,
Am I lost? Am I the only one lost?
I have no
really
idea
lost.
what the hell he was talking about.
This happens every show for us.
we know that he could squat a lot of weight. As we saw when he got to Oklahoma when he broke the team record. He turns out he did that because he was trying to connect with guys, and everybody was in the weight room, and he thought it would be a way for him to connect with his teammates. It speaks to his leadership as far as the weightlifting thing, and he also wants to be better. But the reason he didn't need, there was no actual real purpose for a quarterback to squat that much weight, other than him to say, "Hey guys, want to see something cool?" And then he said that was allowed the players to get to know him, and that's actually why he did it, which shows how smart a leader he is. But we know he works hard, at the fitness club. But 610-632-0975. This one's not my fault. Jose and Joe, we're going to get to more calls on the other side. Word of the day is scheduled because we think a lot of the Eagles' struggles yesterday were schedule-related. And we're on to Dallas, and we'll get into the nice list of things. And the line just opened up at 610-632-0975. And back in a flash on 97.5 The Fanatic and NBC Sports Philadelphia. All right, let's get back to the polls. Word of the day schedule. We're talking about the Eagles. We're looking back and forward at the same time with the Eagles. We'll get into our nice list and so much more. I know normally at 2:45 we have the Nick Sirianni Day After Presser. We will not have that today because there will not be one due to it being a short week. The last time they had a short week, this also happened. So while it's a blessing in a way, it's also a curse in a way. Jose in Gilbertsville, as we go back to the phones. Jose, you are on 97.5 The Fanatic. Hello.
What's going on, Tyrone?
Listen, I'm feel good. Happy holidays, Jose. How do you feel on this
Happy
Monday?
holidays to you guys. Hey, Ricky Bublé, you sound pretty good there, man.
Thank you. See that, Hunter?
All right, so concern about the Eagles yesterday, I do not have any. I think the weather had to do with some of the miscues that the team had. The defense stepped up, played awesome. I was very happy with with the defense. Haason Reddick was just amazing on what he did. I think that the defense should win, Player of the Week, Defense Player of the Week award. Let them have fun with the trophy. They can put it on each locker room or whatnot. And then now come to Dallas week. I think we should go into Dallas, dominate the game, win the game, and then just rest our starters or just rest some of the guys that are questionable that need that rest. But I think we should go into Dallas, dominate them, because I don't think they're firing all cylinders right now. I think Dak's a little on the weak side. Their defense gave up 503 yards to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I love Dougie P.
Because that secondary in Dallas is not good. If they don't get home with their pass rush, they're infinitely you can move the ball on them very easily because it really Parsons it disguises a lot of their issues on that end. And when you have a feast or famine type corner, what happens if he's not picking the ball off?
Yeah. And the only concern I did have was I don't like Jalen Hurts. I've said it before. I don't like him running the ball a bunch of times. So I have a quick question. Is that something that he's audibling at the line? Or is that something that's being play called, coming in from the sidelines, from the coaches?
In general, it's a mix. But yesterday we don't know, and unfortunately we won't find out. It's a mix. He took too many hits. I also thought there was times where he should have just been able to hand the ball off to Miles Sanders, and that's where the coaches let him down. So I guarantee some of it's him, some of it's the coaches, but we will not know, thanks for the call specifically last night, until we can talk to a coach.
And knowing that the offense is very option-heavy for Hurts, it's maybe they didn't expect it to take until 6 minutes to go in the first half until Sanders got his first touch. Yeah. But because of some of the decisions Hurts made, it kind of played out that way. But it was obvious they wanted to try and take a lot of deep shots and win in the passing game.
Yeah. Well, they did that. And I don't think there's any doubt. He brought something else up. He's like, win this week and then give everybody rest. I don't know if it's that simple. Not for – I mean, that would be, 3 weeks off for a lot of guys. That's too long.
That's going to be an interesting debate after the holiday, the Thursday after the holiday, when we do 10-second song and stuff next week. That will be digging into that because we're not taking off the whole week after Christmas. Because assuming they win the game and everything's clinched, it'll be a conversation about how to handle it. Because one thing we have to know is the Eagles are okay being unconventional. Like they're not going to do – obviously they're not going to do what we say. What I'm saying is what Bill Parcells may have done back in the day or another great coach from the past – or even what a younger Belichick would have done, Belichick might do what Sirianni does now. He's changed over the years. He's going to do whatever both the team, the medical staff, and the analytics, they take all of that stuff into account with what they do. And knock on wood, they were talking about it during the game. Their plan so far of getting everyone to the starting line at training camp has worked out beautifully so far. And I'm literally knocking on wood. So I think they're going to go by, okay, what does the data say if we give guys 2 weeks off versus 1 week off going into the bye? They're going to put all that into it. They're going to make a decision. They may come to the same answer, but they will make the decision with different data than when the Eagles last had a bye the last 2 times.
But all right, I want you to think, obviously, the training camp, none of us liked it because there wasn't much of the starters playing throughout the whole training camp. But think about that first game. That was not the prettiest game they played all year.
No.
So you don't want kind of that happening again in a playoff game.
The difference was, though, they hadn't played a game since January then.
True.
In this case, it would literally only be 3 weeks.
That's a long time
several
for
months.
football players.
And
3 weeks is, but it's not 6 months.
Right,
It's not 9 months.
Is Gannon going to play that? If you get up big, which the Eagles were up big, is Gannon now going to play that the same way he did against the Lions to allow them back in the game?
It appears it will not.
I agree.
Because he has unleashed Haason Reddick. Now that he's unleashed, he was busting that Leatherwood. Boy, there was no leather or wood. It was like putty pleather or something, the way he was going around them time after time, bull rushing him. Even like 2-3 guys got 2 sacks. But you could tell Reddick was the one making the biggest impact.
He was
on the
everywhere.
game.
Everywhere. You know who that reminded me of? Lawrence Taylor. It really did off the edge. This guy's getting in the backfield every play if he wanted to.
He was getting back there almost every play. And never once a screen to his side. I'm saying he's coming.
Yeah, to lighten him up. Yeah.
Never once. I was like, well, sooner or later they're going to try to soften him up with a screen over the top, like over top of him.
The Bears lost, St. Brown in the first series, I think it was, right? That was the first series.
Yeah,
that's their only receiver, really.
Yeah, and that's why I'm pretty sure that Justin Fields' kid's going to end up being a good player because he's out there with nothing, figuring it out.
Starting two receivers were out.
We're out. Lose another guy, lose a lineman. He's just back there balling. I will say I looked at the Bears and said, you know what? Of the teams with no talent, this is the one with the brightest future.
Because you got the quarterback.
You figured out the quarterback, so now you know, okay.
Kind of looks a little bit like Jalen Hurts.
He does. He actually does. He's a little taller, but he plays similar.
A little more backyard football than Hurts does.
But he has to.
He does have to.
Even last year, imagine if Fields had Devonta, like Hurts had last. Maybe he would do less of that. I feel like he had.
Yeah, you almost felt like he was drawn in on the ground in the huddle.
He may have been.
He may have been drawn up some plays.
On the back of the football?
Or on the hand. You're going to go down
You're
and
going to
out.
run, right. You're going to run across. Make sure you're about 8 yards deep when you do the cross. Joe in Delaware talking about the Bears game. You're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, Tyrone. First-time caller.
Mm-hmm.
A little nervous.
Well, don't be nervous, buddy. We're happy to have you.
It is what it is. When you said the coaches should understand the weather,
mm-hmm.
and it took me back to the Fog Bowl in Chicago, and I hate Chicago almost as much as Dallas because of that. When I was a little kid, I watched that. They had the best defense in the whole league. Randall Cunningham as the quarterback, and they lost. They shouldn't have lost, but they did lose because of the weather.
Well, and also, somehow Randall threw for 400 yards and he scored 12 points. Randall was 27 of 54. Now, completion percentage was not as important back then. He threw for 400 yards, but 3 interceptions because allegedly they had the white jerseys on. He couldn't always see his receivers. The Bears were wearing the dark jerseys. They could see. And then he threw for 407 yards and they lost 20-12.
Picture that. Picture being a receiver. How do you even see the ball coming? You're just assuming that it's going to be there.
Right. So that played a role in it. But that wasn't the Bears' fault. That was the league's fault. Apparently, had they delayed the game 2 hours, the fog would have lifted. So you still blame the Bears for the fog bowl and not the league? Because not the Bears' fault. They didn't make the fog.
I blame Chicago for Chicago's weather.
All right.
That's fair.
That is fair.
You know what I mean?
That is fair. And the weather absolutely played a role. And that's where I think the coaches, thanks for the call, Joe, made a mistake. Because clearly it was proven they had an advantage on the outside with their receivers. That's a fact. So they're looking at film, and on a normal day, man, that game plan would have made a lot of sense. But once you put in the weather, well, you got to put the ball in the stomach of Miles Sanders. Now, here's the other part, though, in their defense. When they finally do get him the ball, he then fumbles the ball. So is there a possibility of them thinking, listen, he's been very good with ball control all year. But in this bad weather, did they anticipate, he might get a little bit loose with the ball?
I was actually thinking that
weather.
yesterday.
I don't know. He's been so good with it
this year. But remember early in the year where they were giving Scott and Gainwell the goal line carries, and the thought was early years because they weren't still fully believing in his ball security. Like in the very beginning of the year, he wasn't getting the goal line carries. And then as the year went on, he got more of them, and obviously Hurts gets a lot of them as well. I'm just wondering if they're going, but then if they take it in that account, they put Boston Scott in the game. He's sure with the ball.
I thought it was more just poor timing with it, but obviously
The turnovers threw it off too.
Yeah, because of the timing of it, it is odd that he wasn't really part of the game plan like you think he would be, and then he fumbles, and in previous seasons he had fumble injury or issues. But yeah, I think it was more just weird timing with it all, more than it was they saw this possibly coming. But it was a good day for the Howie Roseman fan club. Haason and AJ? Come on now.
Oh,
I mean, they were the most dominant on both sides of the ball.
Haason, the AJ thing was not.
Whoa, 181.
It's not surprising, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Haason Reddick going in, because there were people, when you enter the year, because you can't base all that stuff on now, was why is he on his third team in 3 years? If he's so good, why does he keep bouncing around? Because the other teams were stupid. That's why. Arizona's not a well-run situation, neither is Carolina. You let that guy out of your city? Are you kidding me? Thank you.
Got to be out of your mind.
Yeah, like what's going on here? So the reason was nothing wrong with him. Something was wrong with them. In the case of A.J. Brown, well, we knew he was a good player. You act like the league didn't know.
I'm just saying.
No.
It was a good day for the Howie Roseman fan club.
Now, if you want to say Mailata blocking well or
that
something.
too. I mean, you want to keep going down the list?
That was Jeff Lurie's pick.
I got 3 more hours.
Jeff Lurie told us that was his pick.
Oh, that's right.
Him and Lane.
Right.
So he doesn't get credit for those guys.
You take those 2 away, and there's still plenty to go through.
Yeah, looking at this fog ball real fast.
Yeah.
Keith Byers as a running back had 103 yards receiving. And Keith Jackson, the tight end, had 142 yards receiving. Randall threw for 400 yards. They scored 12 points.
That's impossible. That's impossible.
They were down 17-9 at the half and only scored 3 more points in the second half. And the Bears only scored a field goal in the fourth quarter. I mean, this is unbelievable, that game. For people that don't remember, you should go Google that and look at it. The opposing quarterback won, going 10 for 20, Mike Tomczak, 172 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 picks. And they won the game. Are you kidding me?
3 picks. And he wins the game.
Speaking of picks, do you think Quez Watkins could have broke a little bit different on the second one?
Quez, I'm glad God is coming back, is what I'm saying. They overused Quez. They were going to Quez too often, in my opinion. They were forcing him. He's a nice player, but trying to feature him was a mistake. Getting Goddard back takes some of that away. Yes, and I thought he could have on some of those. Hurts wasn't sharp. For a while there, it was the first time this year where I thought Hurts was actually playing badly. But then you look up, he had 3 rushing touchdowns and 300 yards. So, even his bad game is still pretty good.
The second half, he was much, much better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, earlier it was like, this is the first time. Because even in the Washington game, there was a lot of circumstances with a lot of stuff. And the picks weren't really his fault. Yesterday, for a stretch, was literally, this was the 15th, 14th game. It was the first time I was like, huh.
Yeah, but he got through it. I mean, that to me is more important than anything else. You're going to have terrible games at some point.
He will. It was just, this was the first time we had saw it.
And coaching-wise, how many times do we come in here and say, I was really confused on what they were doing? Against the Colts when they lost Dallas for the first time, and this game, and it wasn't even atrocious. I just would have handled it differently.
Well,
It worked. What they wanted to do worked. It's just maybe not the way I would have done it. I would have mixed in more running. So out of all these games, there's been, I'd say, 1.5 times I questioned the coaching staff and what they did before the week started.
Right, because Washington wasn't coaching. That was just penalties, Washington playing great. Maybe it was some Gannon, but overall, you're right. I think that's 1.5 for the coaches and 1.5 for the quarterback. All year. And I was like, that was the first time I was like, wow, Hurts is actually struggling. Didn't matter, but it was the first time I was like, huh. Like, it looked like he was coming off the field, like, frustrated, like, ugh.
That, to me, tells you a lot. If it didn't, it really didn't matter. He struggled, and it didn't matter. He's able to bounce back. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks that fold under when something goes wrong in a game like that. I just think he's just a step ahead of everybody else right now.
He is. You're absolutely right. Let's go back to the phones and talk to Bob in Atlantic City. You're on 97.5 The Fanatic. Hello, Bob.
What's going on, guys?
How are you?
I'm doing good. Just to let you guys know, I'm a first-time caller.
Thank you.
I'm handicapped, and every day all I look forward to is listening to your show.
Oh, thank you so much.
I wanted to say that my biggest worry is if we beat Dallas this week, I'm worried because it's hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year.
Whoa, hold on, Bob. You're making a very big presumption. If they beat Dallas, you're making a presumption that they play them again.
Well, yeah, but
Don't do that. Don't jump all the way to that. Don't do that, Bob. What I'm saying is, you don't worry about it. Whether they, first of all, because of Dallas's loss, the Eagles now have some wiggle room as far as the win or the loss, unfortunately, as far as like the fan goes, because the game could have felt a little bit bigger. We'll talk about that with the question of the day. But you're worrying about something that very may not happen. How sure are you, for example, that Dallas could go on the road and beat the 49ers?
I'm not too sure about that one.
Well, then there you go. They would have to do that in order to play the Eagles again.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, so what I'm saying, Bob, don't get too worried about something ahead of time. Also, yes, it's hard to beat a team 3 times, but it's easy to beat the Cowboys in the playoffs because they're losers.
Well, they are losers. I mean, that game yesterday just goes to show you. Or Sunday or Saturday, whenever it was. That game just goes to show you how you lose that game.
Well, I tell you how. Because they all have loser. Thanks for the call. They got loser in the DNA.
They're focused on the Eagles running their mouth all week long.